Good day, everyone. Have you ever experienced the delightful maze of language where words twist and turn, sometimes surprising us in the most unexpected ways?
Absolutely. And today, we're here to take you on the linguistic journey like no other. But first, let us introduce ourselves.
I am Aina Marino.
And I am Chelsea Belicario. Together, we are your guides into the fascinating world of philosophical investigations of Ludwig Wittgenstein.
Have you ever come across a Tagalog word with the multiple meanings? For instance, the word baba can mean both down and chin.
Indeed, Aina, and that's where our exploration begins. So stay with us, dear viewers, as we dive into the world of linguistic mysteries.
Welcome to a world where language is an adventure. Every word has a story. Now, let's meet the philosopher who reshaped how we think about language. Ludwig Wittgenstein.
Language stands as humanity's most potent invention, enabling communication, self expression, and the evolution of our collective understanding. Yet, the fundamental nature of words and the intricacies of linguistic usage often bewilder us, resulting in peculiarities within our social structures. Language, in many ways, mirrors a living organism. It undergoes transformations, adapts over time, assumes various forms, and permits multiple interpretations.
Wittgenstein found this aspect of language profoundly captivating. He had a firm belief that through the application of logic, language could achieve greater clarity and utility. This notion became his driving passion, but also a source of enduring inner turmoil. His ideas exerted a gravitational pull on his readers, a force previously unfelt. While many struggled to grasp his concept, those who succeeded found themselves entering a realm characterized by lucidity and rationality, forever altering their intellectual landscape.
Ludwig Joseph Johann Wittgenstein, born in Vienna in 1889, was a highly influential philosopher in the 20th century. He had a significant impact in the fields of language, communication, and philosophy of mind. This study dives into Wittgenstein's life, philosophical evolution, critic of conventional theories, and his innovative notion of language games.
He was the youngest child of a wealthy and culturally powerful family, with a strong hold on the steel business. His childhood, his childhood was marked by tragedy and psychological turmoil. Three of Wittgenstein's siblings committed suicide, casting a shadow of depression and suicidal thoughts over Wittgenstein's own life. His encounters with mental pain will shape his philosophical beliefs later in life.
His journey led him to study engineering at Cambridge, but he later inherited a substantial fortune, when his father passed away after studying. Wittgenstein then chose a life of solitude in Norway, where he penned his first masterpiece, the Tractatus Logica Philosophicus.
It is a short, beautiful, and baffling work. His big question is, how do human be- how do human beings manage to communicate ideas to one another? Through this journey, he asserted that language works by triggering within us pictures of how things are in the world.
This work, through concise and enigmatic, laid the groundwork for Wittgenstein's early belief that language functions by creating mental pictures of facts. He argued that communication often falters because people hold different mental images of what they're conveying.
Let's say, for example, your father told your mom that he had a meaningful conversation about career with his colleague. That seems a good one from our point of view, but your mother suddenly blurted out what she imagined by what your father told her. She imagined something more than a talk that actually didn't happen. And that's how sometimes we're very bad at managing to make good pictures in the minds of others.
Wittgenstein pointed out that communication problems arise when we lack clear of understanding of our own thoughts. Secondly, we say meaningless, muddled, or unelaborated things which therefore can go nowhere in the minds of others. Lastly, we read more meaning into the word of others than they ever intended or than is warranted.
In essence, Wittgenstein emphasized the importance of precision and care in language, a theme we see in the Tractatus. He thought his he thought this would be his last work for philosophy that would ever be written. But Wittgenstein's journey didn't end there.
He studied architecture and design for his sister in Vienna, and after some point, he got bothered about the ceiling in one of the rooms and concluded that it was too low. Hence, he insisted on having it raised by 3 centimeters.
In 1929, he returned to Cambridge, and in 1953, he published his second major work, Philosophical Investigations. In this book, he asserted that language is like kind of tool that we use to play different games, which means more patterns of intentions.
Wittgenstein highlighted how self-understanding relies on the words and language available to describe our experiences. Words like angst and nostalgia help us articulate complex feelings and experiences. Additionally, exposure to rich language enhances our self-knowledge.
Let's dive deeper into this book. He critiqued traditional theories of meaning. He argued that these theories inadequately grasp in the intricacies of language and its utilization.
The descriptivist theory of meaning associates meaning with a set of descriptive properties or conditions that a word or phrase must satisfy to be meaningful. For example, in a descriptivist theory, the meaning of the word cat might be described in terms of the necessary and sufficient conditions for something to be a cat.
In the referential theory of meaning, words gain meaning by referring to objects or concepts in the world. For example, the word cat acquires meaning by referring to actual cats in the world.
Wittgenstein critiqued these traditional theories, arguing that they do not adequately capture the complexity of language and its use. Instead, he proposed a new idea that language is a tool used in various language games or patterns of intentions. He introduces the concept of language games as a way to understand how language functions in various social contexts. Instead, trying to find a single fixed meaning for a word, he suggests that meaning is context dependent and tied to the use of language in a particular activities or language games. Understanding the specific language game being played is crucial for effective communication.
For instance, consider informal dialogue, critiquing a painting, storytelling, or translating between languages.
In these, we may know that meaning is contingent on context and intricately linked to language games. Various language games possess distinct rules and objectives. Hence, comprehension necessitates discerning the particular game in progress.
We may also know that words acquire significance through their function within a game. A key to a good communication is finally knowing how to work out the game.
The connection between language and our perception of the world is rather intricate. Language offers us a multitude of possibilities in diverse language games, as Wittgenstein termed them. The meaning of a word hinges on the particular language game in which we engage. The true challenge for philosophers lies in meticulously dissecting these language games through a careful examination of the language in which they are expressed.
Philosophical dilemmas arise when we inadvertently mix one language game with another. For instance, people may ponder the nature of something they label as the soul, but this confusion might arise because they are conceptualizing the soul in a manner akin to a tangible object. In essence, they are conflating different modes of expressions.
You may ask why you may ask, is the role of philosophy is to disentangle these language games? Precisely. It's essential to recognize that these language games are all valid in their own right. Philosophy does not aim to challenge them, but rather to comprehend them thoroughly. Philosophy, in its essence, leaves everything unaltered.
Every explanation, after all, remains a hypothesis. The act of posing grand philosophical questions can induce a sort of mental discomfort. While a philosopher cannot completely alleviate this discomfort, their role is undeniably therapeutic in shedding light on the complexities of language and thought.
Wittgenstein contends that word meanings are intricately linked to context. word associations, and the societal conventions they are part of. Language, he asserts, is not static, but rather a dynamic instrument molded by its utilization.
The idea of rule following argues that meaning is not based on a set of rigid definitions, but on how language users follow and understand linguistic rules in practice. He challenges the notion of a private language, suggesting that meaning emerges through communal, rule governed activities.
Another crucial concept is family resemblance. Wittgenstein suggested that words don't have one fixed defining characteristic, but are connected through a network of overlapping similarities. For instance, the concept of game doesn't have a single essential feature, but shares similarities with various activities we call games.
Wittgenstein's Beetle in the Box thought experiment illustrate that our understanding of words is based on their function in language, rather than a direct connection to reality. It challenges the notion of private language, a language only one person understands. If everyone has a box with a private beetle and we can see each other's beetles, how can we know if our concept of a beetle is the same?
The notion of private language argument comes in. It isn't it is a language with a vocabulary and structure that only its originator and sole user understand, all the while untranslatable and obscure to everyone else. The original notion of a private or personal language was in being analogous to what a person might use in attempting to convey his or her unique experiences, perceptions, and senses, the person's individualized mental state.
However, one criticism of such a personal language, by reason of being most unfathomable to others, is in its not holding to the definitional purpose of a working language as we commonly know it, to communicate with others, using mutually agreed upon and comprehended guidelines.
Lastly, Wittgenstein emphasizes the centrality of language usage in its comprehension and encourages philosophers to direct their attention toward the practical application of language in everyday life, rather than pursuing abstract, immutable meanings.
Wittgenstein's legacy is a profound one. His philosophy has shaped how we think about language, meaning, and communication. He encouraged us to focus on practical language usage and the context in which words are employed, rather than searching for abstract or fixed meanings.
His ideas influenced philosophers like Gilbert Ryle and J. L. Austin and continue to impact the fields of philosophy of language and mind.
Ludwig Wittgenstein's life and philosophical journey were filled with personal challenges, but they profoundly shaped his perspective on language and communication. His critique of traditional theories of meaning and his concept of language games revolutionized how we understand language.
And so, as we conclude our linguistic adventure, remember that language is a dynamic and ever-evolving tool. It's not a rigid structure, but rather a living entity shaped by our interactions and shared understanding.
Once again, I am Aina Marino.
And I am Chelsea Belicorius, your reporters through the philosophical investigations of Ludwig Wittgenstein. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey.